Uh, okay. Pau is in the southwest of France, so it's very close to Spain, actually.
Yeah, close to the mountains, I think.
Yes, Pyrenees.
Very, very nice. Ah, so your university is there?
No, my university is in Paris.
Oh,
so,
yeah, that's right.
But I live in Kampung because it's more, quiet. And my husband is working here, so.
Ah, now I see it. Wow, you have a cosmopolitan life. Different places.
Yeah. Yeah. And how are you? Long time no see. Last time we met, it was in Leiden during a seminar, with Fahrizal, I think.
Yeah, you had shorter hair then, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I'm fine. I'm often in this room, not moving around a lot. Oh, but by the way, I am going to this Euroseas conference of Southeast Asia scholars. Any chance you would be going?
No, I'm not
Which
participating.
is next week. Okay, well, I'll try to convince you next time. It's every 2 years, and it's a nice kind of family reunion of people.
Could be great. Could be great. Yeah. Okay. I would love to. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but in the meantime, everybody has entered, I think.
Yes.
Because Truly is more busy in LP3S work.
Very much so.
So because it's audit 2, I let them in.
Yeah, good. I'm just seeing the faces and the people. Some people I know. Pradipa is there.
Yeah, I asked our team to join too.
Yeah.
Halo, Prof.
Halo, apa kabar?
Baik, Prof. How are you there?
Fine. Fine. Senang lihat begitu banyak orang.
So they were waiting in the waiting room for centuries. They said.
Oh. Well, maybe we should get started then. If we kept them waiting.
Yeah, it's Truly who acted as a moderator today.
Okay, will we start? Okay.
Yes, I think. Yeah, I think we can start now. Is that okay to start now? What?
Yeah, fine.
Great.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon in Indonesia or in another country. I don't know where you are. So hello, happy to see you again today. And we hope that you are enjoying our courses so far. And today we have an honor to have Professor Ward Berenschot. Please correct me if I pronounce your name.
No, pretty good. Pretty good.
Berenschot is fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So Ward is a professor of comparative political anthropology at the University of Amsterdam. And he's also a senior researcher from KITLV. And his interest lies on political anthropology, political violence, Indonesian politics, Indian politics, clientelism. It is interesting how you switch from Indian politics to Indonesian politics word. So perhaps you may share with us a little bit about that.
How did it happen? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And he has several publications already. Some of them are Resolving Land Conflicts in Indonesia, and then A Quiet Revolution, Village Head Elections, and the Democratization of Rural Indonesia, and many more. So the floor is yours, Ward.
No. Tri, I will speak first.
Okay. I'm sorry, Vija. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not forgetting you. Okay. So you're going to present something, or?
Yeah, I will speak first, and then what we'll do it afterwards.
Okay, so then I will introduce you then.
Yeah. So I can take my drink while you're doing it.
Okay. So, have you known already Wijayanto or Wija? He's the director of our summer school and also the director of Center for Media and Democracy at LP3ES. And he's a lecturer of government science at DIPONEGORO University in Semarang, Indonesia. And Wija has interest in the topics such as media and democracy, usually in Indonesia. That's right, Wija?
Yes, that's right.
And he has many publications as well, like Bourdieu and Media Theory, and then Alt Practice in a New Era, and then Campaigning Online and Offline, and many more. So yes, Wija, please, the floor is yours. So if would you like to start?
Yes. Thank you, Trui. Hello, everyone. This is the summer course day 6, yeah, Pak Gulam? Day 6 or day 5. I forget it myself. So I will start slowly, yeah. I hope you are okay wherever you are. And I'm happy to see so many people, so many of you opening your screen. I think it's because what is coming. What you should you should be with us since the very beginning, so everyone opens their screen. Because before they our friends here, they close their screen, so we don't know their face. So it's nice. I'm happy to see everyone.
This is nice.
This is a serious course, but we will be relaxed here. There are some students, some undergraduate students as well in this class today. Some master students, some of my students too, but also some who are very expert in this topic. I think who already do research about it, like Mas Anton Lee here for Kompas newspaper, and perhaps some other friends, and also Mbak Anita Wahid, who is also concerned about this issue. She's doing research about it. She will be doing her PhD about this matter, right?
Oh, great.
Mas Tommy Satriatomo, who will be doing his PhD too about it. So I think it's good to see a lot of friends here. Now I will share my screen. Okay. Yep. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Great. Yeah. I will start by telling you stories, I think, like, Truly has already told you, yeah? So Ward and me are involved in a research project about cyber troops and public opinion manipulation, a mixed method study of social media propaganda in Indonesia. This is actually the title of our research proposal, what that got the grant from Angin project. The announcement is, I think, around June last year, in 2020. Truly, you said that what is the expert on election, on vote buying, on clientelism. His book, which is very famous about money politics, in Indonesia, Democracy for Sale, the big title. How did he come into this project, right? I think it's because what is someone who loves to broaden his horizon, because he's also doing research about palm oil conflict, right? And also land grabbing in Borneo. So I think one day, this is real story. I was concerned about the cyber troops, and in the case of Caprica, because I was involved there as one of the academics who got the cyber terror. Perhaps I will tell you more tomorrow about it. But this cyber terror and also this online propaganda inspired me to do research about it. And I said to what would you like to do research about this computational propaganda, about cyber troops? And it was to my surprise actually that he said yes. So that's also another jump, yeah, from clientelism and then to environmental issue, palm oil conflict, and then land grabbing, and then to this. I'm doing mass media and democracy since my master program. I never jump into environment. I guess not yet, or election, but what already goes everywhere. And it was good that he said yes, because then that's the start of this very long project until which we are still doing right now, and we're going to present this to you very soon. I will start because I will do the easy part, yeah, and what we'll do the more difficult part. He will elaborate about the consequence of this public opinion manipulation and cyber troops for democracy. Okay, so this is the composition of the team. After I contact Ward and we agreed to contact Yatun, and then we bring Fahmi in as well. The first meeting was in LP3S, yeah, before the pandemic arrived. So we discussed the proposal in LP3S office. What was there? Fahmi was there. Yatun was joining online, I think, because she was doing research. And I still remember after we talked about this matter, a few hours later, Jokowi announced in TV the first corona outbreak in Indonesia, and what was about to fly home, right? Fly to the Netherlands, and her wife called him in the car. Oh, good that you fly here because the pandemic is there now.
Yeah, 2nd of March. I remember.
2nd of March. Remember, I will never forget the date. Yeah, it's a historical moment. And so anyway, we continue working on the proposal. So we expand, we improve our proposal, and then we would like to focus on these 5 cases: cybertube and public opinion manipulation, a mixed method study of social media propaganda in Indonesia. And we do investigation. We are doing, yeah, because we're still doing it now. First case was a presidential election 2019. The second was bills on revision of Caprica law 2019. Third is new normal policy in 2020. Omnibus law enactment, yeah, in 2020, and then the election of the local head amid the corona pandemic in 2020. So this is the 5 cases that we would like to investigate. This is a quite ambitious project, yeah, because a lot of cases that we would like to examine. And this is actually the big questions of our research. First, how is social media propaganda being used in Indonesia to manipulate public opinion? To what extent it has influenced the Indonesian digital public sphere? Second, who are the actors of the social media propaganda and what are the underlying forces behind their operation? Third, how effective are civil society initiatives to boost Indonesia's resilience in the face of this threat to its democracy? And for this, we use a mixed method, like in the title of the proposal. Yeah, the first was computational data analysis. So basically, it's social media analysis. And in this thing, we are helped a lot because Mas Fahmi is in the team. And then we do field work, in-depth interview. So, when you saw a tweet or conversation or your narrative in Twitter, you found a lot of names, yeah. Sometimes it's fake name, right? Like Digembo FC, yeah. In the old days, we have Trio Macan, and a lot other accounts, right? And the question is, who are they? Who they are, right? That's why we need field work or in-depth interview to know who they are. And then we also combine it with digital ethnography. Today, we will show you the result of the social media analysis and the fieldwork or in-depth interview. I will do this part, social media analysis, and what will do the fieldwork parts, and what will combine it with the old vote buying practice. Okay, so this is the first method. I will explain to you more. Social media analysis. This is basically a method of gathering big amount of data from online social networks such as Twitter to analyze the content, quantity, and networks of social media posts. These methods include social network analysis, which is analysis of the pattern of networks and interactions between social media accounts. In particular, this research look at manipulation of online communication through social media, for which it adopts the following three indicators: the sudden emergence of particular narrative, the dissemination of variation of photos, memes, videos accompanied by a very similar narrative, the lack of followers and or other interactions on social media of the accounts spreading those pictures, memes, and videos. Okay, one aspect of this social media analysis is the natural language programming software. Mas Fahmi will explain about it, yeah, in one session special for him, yeah. So natural language programming and computational propaganda, you will have it with him. So I will not explain it here. Okay, the second method is digital ethnography. What is it? You know, if you do ethnography, if you are an anthropologist, I guess you're familiar. Yeah, ethnography is basically immersion, the study of people, social practices, and social interaction in a real-world environment. Yeah, focusing on language, symbols, meaning, rituals, practices, identity and community building, continuity, conflict, and change. And digital ethnography means yeah, has the same purpose and focus for mapping social practices and interaction in a digital environment. There will be a session as well about it, special for this. Okay, now the third method is ethnography. So often called as participant observation, ethnography is based on the apparently simple idea that in order to understand what people are up to, it is best to observe them by interacting with them intimately and over an extended period of time. It is why anthropologists have tended traditionally to spend long periods, sometimes years, living in the communities they study. I did my ethnography in Kompas Daily newspaper. Some of Kompas friends are here. I think around 1.5 years, yeah. Theoretically, yeah, but actually, I think I learned from our friends from Kompas until now, I think. So that's what the anthropologists do. Okay, now I will focus on the patterns of public opinion manipulation in Indonesia. I will start with my part, or what will continue with his part. So the research question specific for this part is, how is social media propaganda being used in Indonesia to manipulate public opinion? What is the pattern of this public, not only, but online public opinion manipulation? How does it impact the Indonesian digital public sphere? Okay, I will bring 3 cases, yeah, to show you the pattern of public opinion manipulation in Indonesia. The first is the Caprica Bills. So this is the revision of for those who are from abroad, yeah. Caprica is the anti-corruption body in Indonesia, which is very strong and which is very credible. And in the old days, before the revision, it was able to bring the big politician into jail. Yeah, that's why Indonesian politicians along history, I mean, since the Caprica was born in 2002, tried to weaken this institution. In 2019, they managed to revise the law on this institution, and this resulted in the weakening indeed of the institution. So several attempts before failed, we could say that, but in 2019 they were success. And one of the reasons of the success was the use of computational propaganda and online public opinion manipulation for this purpose. The second case that I would like to present you is the new normal policy. You know, in 17th July, the news in the New York Times said that the pandemic has a new epicenter, Indonesia. This reflects how poor the handling of the pandemic was, and it happened actually since the very beginning, since what we call as the new normal policy back to May 27, 2020. And the last case would be protests on Omnibus Law Bill 2020. Truly, please remind me if I ran out of time. Yeah, I mean, it's still just beginning. I will have so many slides, but please make sure to stop me before 3, yeah? So
Okay.
maximum at 3 o'clock. We have 3 hours ahead. So I will present perhaps mostly maximum in 1 hour and perhaps what in 30 minutes, and then we will have 1.5 hours for discussion.
Okay, will do, Ija. Thank you.
Okay, so this will be the argument of the studies. So the study argues that there has been a successful attempt to manipulate public opinion on social media to justify problematic policies in Indonesia in the case of 3 problematic bills or policy. Yeah? First, bills on the revision of law on corruption eradication in 2019, implementation of new normal policy in 2020, and omnibus law in 2020. In the end, this attempt has successfully sparked million conversations on social media, which in turn has also become news coverage in the mainstream media in a relatively long period of time, which ultimately has made the bills become accepted in the public mind. This study further argues that the situation has prevented social media to become a free digital public sphere that allows organic citizens to voice their opinion and criticism. Instead, it has turned into a space controlled by non-organic cyber troops containing anonymous actors promoting the agenda of the power holders. I have explained about this method, yeah. So what is propaganda? So if we refer to Harold Laswell, yeah, he's a political scientist actually, but his theory about communication is so famous and quite and cited a lot, yeah. He said that propaganda is the management of collective attitudes by the manipulation of significant symbols. Snow defined propaganda as sponsored information that use cause and emotion-laden content to sway public opinion and behavior in support of the source's goals. And we refer to this Oxford research, yeah, published in 2019 by Howard and Phil Howard and Samantha Bradshaw. Commercial propaganda is defined as the use of algorithms, automation, and big data to shape public life. But what is cyber troops then? According to Howard and Bradshaw, cyber troops is simply defined as political party or government agency which is tasked to manipulate public opinion online. So they only define this cyber troop as government and political party agency that is assigned to manipulate opinion online. We have our own definition. I think at least this is our working definition so far. Yeah, we've just discussed it last night and also a moment ago, me and Ward, yeah, with Nyaton as well. Cyber troop is a network consists of buzzers, coordinators, influencers, content creators, and political consultants who work together to orchestrate public opinion on social media by creating a certain narrative on certain political issues in which every change of the network don't necessarily know each other, nor they necessarily know that they work together for supporting the narrative. In this regards, they could work for certain material or political rewards, or simply to follow the call of their hearts or their beliefs. This definition comes from reflection, yeah, well, for more than 1 year research, and also from the research that we have done. What will also touch this matter deeper in his part, but I would like to tell you that in this research team we have around 10 members to do research with the buzzers, yeah, with the members of the cyber troops. Some of the members of our team are here, our researchers are here. And we also have another team consists of 4 people to do digital ethnography, and also another team to do the social media analysis. So it's actually a huge project. Okay, Samantha Bradshaw and Howard, yeah, they actually started their study in 2019, yeah, in which they found, this Oxford people found that in 70 countries, the public opinion manipulation online was conducted. This is their initial study in 2019. And then in 2020, they found that 80 countries, the cyber troops and public opinion manipulation were, exist in 80 countries. Yeah. In our research, departed from this their findings, we improve it, yeah, because we found that in Indonesia they really they don't use ethnography, they don't do interview, and their findings is sometimes not quite deep. Yeah, for instance, they argue that in Indonesia and the cyber troops only work during the election. Yeah, and we want to challenge that argument, and we want to challenge the definition of cyber troops as well. That's why we did this research. Okay, now I will bring you to the Caprica law revision case. Yeah. So perhaps many of you here remember, but I would like to tell you from friends from other country that the law on our anti-corruption body was enacted, yeah, in September 17, 2019. So it was a very strange situation, because they didn't announce it in the newspaper, yeah, publicly. Suddenly around early September, yeah, they had our House of Representative, yeah, our DPR legislative had a kind of meeting, and they agreed to revise this revision of law on KPK as their agenda. Soon afterwards, there were public criticism, but also support for this revision in social media. So between 10 to 7 September alone, there were more than 620,000 conversations about this online. And in Twitter alone, this is more than 500,000. This is something that is not normal, yeah, because conversation about something usually in social media usually didn't reach this much, yeah. So based on our experience, our research with Fahmi, yeah, with normal issue will not reach 500,000 tweets just in 1 week. So we would like to know more what happens actually there. Okay, in our conclusion, as I argued earlier, yeah, that this is one of the signs that there is an online propaganda exists, yeah, tsunami of tweets in my term, yeah, sudden emergence of a certain narrative massively in a social media space. And what is it? What's in it? then you will find that the hashtag was revisi UU KPK for NKRI. So revising the law on this institution for the nation state. If KPK is strong, then corruption goes down. Support the revisi UU KPK. KPK should be better. KPK should not be cengeng. What is cengeng in English? Should not
Whiny.
be. Yeah, whiny. Okay, thank you. And then KPK and Taliban. Tempo Kasung KPK, because Tempo was critical, yeah, to the revision, and KPK should obey the rule. And the peak of all of them is KPK and Taliban. So the issue that KPK is the place of extremism is the most popular, and it also was popular in the mainstream media too. You know, because Indonesia has a long story of, you know, a political identity. So this particular hashtag, the media and also the public, the citizen got it, bought it. So this is the look or the visualization of the SNA, as you could see here. It's there as again, yeah, one of the most tweeted, yeah, retweets hashtag is KPK and Taliban. That's the second, yeah. And then the first is KPK patuh aturan, KPK obey the law. You could see the visualization here, yeah, the hashtag here in Twitter, in social media. And there was also an attempt to manipulate public opinion by using quiz, yeah, 50,000 for 2 people who are lucky, yeah. In one condition, you post a Twitter status saying hashtag KPK patuh aturan, KPK obeys the law, yeah. And it was successful, yeah, with only 50,000 rupiahs. For 2 people, it means only 25,000 rupiahs, yeah. This hashtag become popular. So you could see here, yeah, the existence of tsunami of tweet, yeah, the sudden emergence of narrative of certain issue, and then the hashtag, yeah, is 2 of the indicators of the existence of public opinion manipulation. This is our research about who are those, yeah, who are playing, yeah. There are robots, there are buzzer, and there are influencers. In our research, we distinguish between robot, buzzer, and influencers. You know, robot means accounts which are identified as robot by the machine. So we have a botometer. This machine identify or recognize something as robot when, you know, from the pattern of the tweets, 200 last tweet. Usually robot only retweet something or post something automatically, you know, every 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So we know that that's robot, right? And buzzer means fake account using fake name or picture profile. So, well, this is the difference between our definition and the popular definition, yeah. I think a week ago, yeah, or a couple of days ago, Dahlan Iskan interviewed me, yeah, and I explained this to him, that the term that we use is cyber troops or cyber mercenary, and I define it, you know, very long definition. And then, you know, the title of the blog that he wrote was Pasukan Buzzers, you know, and that's the way to I think, because he's a journalist, that's the way to make public understand what he says. But actually, that's in our research we distinguish it. You know, sometimes people like Adi Armando, yeah, they call it as buzzer. In our view, he's influencer. So what's the difference methodologically? Buzzer are fake account using fake name or picture profile. We don't know who they are, right? In the real world. So like di Gembok FC here, you know, here we see like King Purwa, we don't know. Michael Adam, gitu, we don't know here, yeah. Anjares, influencers are real account using real name or picture profile, or at least we know who he is, yeah. Eko Kuntadi is example of influencers. right? Or who is it? It was the most famous one.
Denny Siregar.
Denny Siregar, that's right. You're familiar, yeah? Because I had millions of data, so I easily forget about one tiny thing. For me, Denny Siregar is just tiny, yeah? Okay, so that's this is different. Okay, so in the case of Caprica, as you could see here, it was successful, and the survey from Compass in 16 September 2019, it says that 44.9% of the public support the revision of the law on Caprica. So you could see here, and those who disagree or object the revision is 10% lower, 39.9%. So we argue here that to some extent, this public opinion manipulation has created tsunami of tweet, created a certain narrative that influenced the public opinion in general. Yeah, and it was also covered. This is not in my slide, but in other slide I present how KPK Sarang Taliban or KPK and Taliban are the most written or amplified by the mass media. Okay, now I will go to the second case, new normal policy. So in the 26th of May, yeah, Jokowi declared that we should live in peace. In 7th of May, yeah, Jokowi said that citizens have to live in peace with the virus corona. And in 26th of May, he followed his suggestion by going to the mall, yeah, to make sure that now we are safe to go to the mall. Don't worry, yeah. Don't worry, you can do it. That's the favorite quotes of my daughter. She got from video, YouTube video, yeah. But that's the message from President Jokowi, yeah. He said he wanted to say that we are already okay to do economy. Just go to the mall. I also go to the mall. But you see here, yeah, a lot of photographers and police, yeah. I guess you don't have this many guards when you go to the mall. Well, back then, actually, yeah, in around May, yeah, here we are actually having an increase in our coronavirus cases. So the question was why we did that. Were we ready for entering the new normal? Actually, yeah, yeah. But this new normal, since President Jokowi was declaring it in the Twitter, and also by doing visiting the mall, there was sharp increase of the media coverage about it too. Now let's see what happens online. Yeah, as you could see here, soon after President Jokowi visiting a mall in Bekasi, preparing for new normal, there was a sharp increase of conversation in Twitter, yeah, about new normal, using hashtag new normal. So you found here more than 1 million conversation tweet, yeah, 1.3 million tweets in Twitter only about new normal between 16 to 7 June. But the peak was around the time when Jokowi went there. The interesting thing as well, as you could see here, Indonesia, we don't speak English here, right? We speak Indonesian language, but we are the country online with most tweet about new normal. We are much more than Canada or United States and Australia too. They only tweet about it in Australia, yeah, less than 2,000. In the US, only around 2,000. But in Indonesia, 156,674 times. So you could see the comparison, yeah. Is it the reflection that our citizens suddenly very good at English, that they tweet English? That's not what happened. Okay, we found here that in our research that there was indeed the sign of the existence of public opinion manipulation. Yeah, you could see the social network analysis here. There was this is the opposition and this is the pro-government. So the opposition to new normal indicated as a red, red picture here is only small. Then the green one, green is the pro-government, supporting the new normal, and it's everywhere. Okay, and those who played the campaign for new normal was including Poly Network as well there, and many actors, And the hashtag was disiplin pola hidup baru, and then tata kehidupan baru. This is the zoom in for 4 days. Disiplin pola hidup baru, humas Poly networks, a lot of them, many of them. And this is the pro-opposition, the actors. We found Haikal Hassan there, Dr. Koko, and some other. I think in the case of Caprica, and also in the case of Caprica at least, Mbak Anita Wahid is also those who oppose on Twitter about this. Okay, so the hashtag that is used is as you could see here, bersiap menuju new normal, new normal. This is the most hashtag that is used. So that's the other indicator of the existence of computational online manipulation of opinion, public opinion. So before I will not tell more about it. This is also another hashtag, Polri dukung new normal, tata kehidupan baru. And this is actually the public response in general, the emotions, the emotion that is that appears the most is emotion in relation to trust. It doesn't mean that the public trust the policy, but this is emotion related to trust, because trust is comes together back then, with fear, surprise, sadness, and anger. So actually, it's expression of distrust. This is how we read it. Now, not sure. They don't trust because number of cases were still high. Example in Surabaya, other countries were declining. Indonesia was increasing. So if they were doing new normal, that's okay. But we still increasing, and we were afraid. The public actually were afraid about the second wave of Corona. Small number of the tests. It's like war without weapon. This is the example of the tweet, on Twitter, and the curve was increasing. Okay, and in the end, the new normal, the hashtag new normal remains high on Twitter. And this is the picture that more explaining. As you could see here, after the implementation of new normal, Indonesia was actually declining the case, back then, in terms of death, as well as those the case and death. But after the new normal policy, it's increasing very sharp. So because the case were still high, but after the new normal policy, it increased like never before, back to that time. Okay, now this is the third case, the omnibus law. The first SN analysis from 28th September to 5th October. We also found here, conversation about omnibus law about more than 100,000, to support this this policy. This was the SNA of it, and those are the actors who supported. Denis Siregar, you found it here, one of them. And back then, in the beginning, actually, the sentiment mostly was opposing this. DPR RI hianati rakyat. So the parliament betrayed the people. cancel the omnibus law. Yeah, we don't trust the government anymore. Yeah, refuse omnibus law, right? And then in the second analysis, we found that sorry for the correction. Yeah, in the first case, this is a normal people. Yeah, protesting the omnibus law in this first figure. But then in the second figure, suddenly the narrative changed from opposing the omnibus law, rejecting the omnibus law, become supporting, and we found a tsunami of tweets. Yeah. 2.7 million conversation about omnibus law on Twitter, and this is the hashtag omnibus law basmi korupsi. So this law on labor, yeah, on creating employment, will eradicate corruption. People need works, yeah. A local mayor socialize this law on creating employment. So suddenly the narrative changed. Yeah. Yeah, this is the actors. Yeah, the Gembok FC. But there were narrative, yeah, refusing the omnibus law from some politicians as well, like Agus Yudhoyono, and also from some other people like Hidayat Nur Wahid, Tengku and etc. And then this was the actors, yeah, who support the omnibus law. The Divisi Humas Polri, Indonesian Police, Denny Siregar, and I think one of the political party members, yeah, from PSI, Teddy Kusnaidi. And this is the last trend, yeah, in our last finding, yeah, about the trend, yeah. So there were at the beginning no, not so much, but then the omnibus law was enacted. There was actually a moment in which the civil society dominated the conversation when the K-popers also refused omnibus law, yeah, Indonesian K-popers. But then in the end, the omnibus law supporter dominate the conversation on Twitter, yeah, with hashtag omnibus law bring blazing and omnibus law eradicate corruption. So here's the conclusion. There is a pattern of public opinion manipulation to support the problematic bills on Caprica law, new normal policy, and omnibus law as follows. Yeah, the pattern is: first, there was a sudden emergence of a narrative for supporting the bills, which was mostly promoted by cyber troops, which consist of robots, anonymous Twitter account, real accounts which were clearly affiliated or supporters of the government. Second, in the social networks analysis, the accounts supporting the bills have lack of followers and or other interaction on social media. This part, I think I didn't so much describe or explain, but later on in a question and answer session, perhaps I will have time to explain this. 3, those accounts disseminated a variation of photos, memes, and videos accompanied by a very similar narrative. 4, this narrative is then become trending topic, then become the headline in the mainstream media. 5, the public then accepted the bills as reflected in the media survey or in the sentiments of the netizens, which was then dominated by the decrease of the protest and the increase of the support. In the 3 cases, we actually see the resistance towards the public opinion manipulation by civil society activists who protested the bills online. They carried out some narratives about the danger of the bills on capital revision, new normal policy, as well as omnibus law. However, the quantity was outnumbered by the cyber troops. Moreover, their endurance was not as persistent as the cyber troops. It is in this regards that the digital public sphere can no longer be seen as a free public space which we can empower the civil society as suggested by some studies. Yeah, some scholars tend to imagine the public sphere, digital public sphere, as the place where we can compete. Actually, it's imbalanced power, because they have cyber troops and we just have our own self. That would be my part, and what will explain the results of the fieldwork analysis, some of the result, of course, and discuss about the money politics 4.0 in comparison with the money politics, the normal or always money politics. I will return the screen to Truly.
Okay, thank you so much, Vijay. It's just a perfect timing. We have received several questions already. Thank you for your questions. And then we will call you out after the presentation by Ward. Okay, the floor is yours, Ward.
I can do that. I could start, but I saw in the chat there are some nice ones already right on Vijay's topic, and maybe we get a focused discussion if we do a few questions now, since he's also in time. Would you be okay with that, Vijay?
I don't mind. I can take some of them, perhaps.
Okay.
Which one? Truly.
Well,
there are several. Yes. Go on, Ward.
I thought that like Tommy Satriatomo asked this interesting question, which is basically the practical implication of what you just said. Given that this is a problem, what should be done about it?
Yeah, okay. Mas Tommy, would you like to say it? Say the question yourself?
Okay. Wait. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mas Vijay, for your explanation. It is indeed an interesting research. I look forward to get the final result. Looking at your working definition of cyber troops, it seems to me that definition is neutral. It depends on the content that will be propagated, whether it is a positive or negative content. So am I right to conclude that cyber troops is basically neutral, and then it depends on the substance, on the content that it will convey? Second, should and could, what I mean is, can cyber troops should and could be regulated by whom? By the government. If the government is part of the party which want to manipulate public opinion, then who will protect the public interest? Who will protect the public from misleading information? What could the civil society do about that? Thank you.
Yeah, just one person already a lot of questions, yeah, and it's difficult to. Yes. Our definition is, not, I don't believe in the idea of neutral, actually. Yeah. But I will say that our definition, we try to make a definition, to propose a definition that as empirical as possible, yeah, based on the findings of our research. So we suggest that cyber troop is a network of lots of actors, yeah, from the buzzers, and then the coordinators and the content creators, and then the influencers, and also the political broker or political consultant who work together as a network, yeah, to shape public opinion, yeah. And the motive can be material, can be ideological, can be political. So they can get political rewards, material rewards, and also they can be motivated by ideology, actually. So, for instance, yesterday, Mbak Anita said in our discussion in UGM, yeah, that the civil society has to organize themselves too, to, for instance, to counter the narrative on the cyber troops, yeah, who supported the omnibus law, for instance, or Caprica law. We have to be literate to do that. So I will say that that's a good cyber trope. Yeah? So this is actually just like my argument about the connection between internet and democracy. Yeah. In the old days, people were optimistic about the internet because because of the internet back then. Yeah, Jokowi was on the rise. We found Jokowi, said Rostepso. Yeah. Because of the internet, yeah, surely before Jokowi was then weakening the KPK, yeah, because of the internet, there was an Arab Spring that people see it as democratic. Because of the internet, when KPK was tried to be weakened, there were the movement of 1 million Facebookers, yeah, supporting the KPK, right? Our anti-corruption bodies. But nowadays, yeah, as suggested in the book of Rostepso, entitled "From Grassroots Activism to Misinformation." So nowadays, the internet become the place for which facilitate democratic regression. The explanation is not in the internet itself, in my view, but it is in the political structure of the country and the people of the country. In my previous books about democracy without demos, and also Nastapa, the grief of democracy in the time of pandemic and saving democracy in Indonesia, we argue persistently about the rise of the oligarchic power in Indonesia. They got stronger, and this impact the internet. So the cyber troop is used for, in this regard, reducing or declining the democracy, for supporting the problematic policy like KPK law, like omnibus law, and like new normal. So yes, that's neutral. That's just for the first question, yeah. And then I don't think that it should be regulated, yeah, because if we regulate this, then who will regulate this? If the state will regulate this, then they will regulate in their favors, yeah, because they were driven by the oligarchic power, right? So what we need to do is, as I suggest in my presentation, to create the balance of power between the oligarchy and the civil society. So what we need to do is to strengthen the civil society to make them more digitally literate. Yeah. So they have to be more. We have to be more literate digitally. That's why we have the summer course to make us more literate in terms of digital democracy. And then if the government has its own political agenda, as the intentions to manipulate the public, who will protect the public? No one will protect the public. That's the short answer. So we have to protect ourselves. That would be the answer. If we don't do that, no one will do. So we have to count on our own self. That's why tomorrow I will talk about digital citizenship. Yeah, that it's about rights and also of the citizen, and we have to claim our rights. That's the main idea. So we have to struggle ourselves and don't depend on the other parties. What should the civil society would do in this case? Yeah, we can do a lot actually, because we're still weak, so we still have a lot of things to do. And this summer course is just one of them. That would be my answer to Mas Tommy.
Okay, thank you, Wijaya. Thank you, Tommy, for your question. I think we have a response here from a feedback here from Gabriel. Perhaps you would like to add a little bit, Gabriel, before we move on to Ward's presentations.
Or what if we go to what?
Yeah.
Oh, not that neutral, since the word refers to instruction. Okay. Yeah, Gabriel, just give clarification. Yeah, not that neutral, since the word refers to. Yes. I don't believe in the neutral position, yeah, myself. So that's why I answered to Mas Tommy that our definition is we don't intend to be neutral. We just want to be as empirical as possible, right? And that's our That's a definition based on our empirical findings. That's what I would like to comment, short comment to Gabriel. And I think I will return the screen to Truly.
Okay, let's move on to you, Ward, for your presentation.
Okay. Hello, good morning, everybody. Nice to be here at this summer school and to see so many people here. I think it's a really great initiative of LP3S. And indeed, oh yeah.
And Undip.
And Undip, and sorry, yeah, so many different people. But indeed, as Vijay just said, I think this a course like this is one of the initiatives to keep civil society strong and to find solutions to deal with the challenges that democracy in Indonesia faces. And I will be talking about a broad particular one, that is the role of money in the democracy in Indonesia, and the cost of elections. And then one of them is the cost of the cyber troops, because as we just said in his introduction, at that time it seemed like Wart was making a big jump from studying elections campaigns in Indonesia to social media propaganda and cyber troops. But as it turned out, when we were doing our research topic, it's actually very closely related, as I will also talk about in my talk. So, and a lot of the relationship lies in the role of money. So I'm gonna share my screen. Wait one moment, I need to prepare that. To have a PowerPoint, but also I'm going to share my screen to share with you something called Mentimeter, which is a way to have a little bit of a kind of an interactive discussion with you, because I know that many of you have your own knowledge and experience of what I'm going to talk about. So I thought, instead of me just talking and talking, I want to use technical means to kind of bring you in your opinions. So I will ask you two things. First of all, let me share the screen now. Now I have it correct, I think. So I think you see my PowerPoint screen, right?
Yes.
And on top of your screen, you see this request. Go to menti.com and use the code, use this code. If you have your phone here, the easiest would be to do that on your phone so that the screen, you don't have to switch screens. On the computer, you will see me and you see the question, and then you can fill in your answers on the phone. But you can also do this on the computer if you don't have a phone, it doesn't matter. So then you will log into something that will look like this. I think you're seeing this, right? This banner, Ada Wang, Ada Suara. This is where I will put up a few questions in a moment, not immediately, so that we can, so that I can hear your opinions on things. All right, so I'm assuming that that's done. Otherwise, you will still have an opportunity. Oh yeah, and fill in your name so that I know who's talking. So menti.com and then this code. Can somebody, when I see you, can you put up your thumb when it worked so that I can see, did it work? Yeah, I see a few thumbs. Okay, good. All right, then we can start. My talk really is around this very, this key question. And that is, why are Indonesian elections so expensive? Back in 2014, when I followed election campaigns for this book, which then was called Democracy for Sale, was we found that the Pilkada, the elections for district, had the winning candidate spends about 28 billion rupiah, miliar, and the winning candidate for governor spends on average 160 M, which I think since then has gone up. So this is even an old number. But coming from the Netherlands, that was particularly surprising because in the Netherlands, I knew the amounts. And for example, the biggest party that we have here spent only 17 M on its whole national campaign. So that's just as much as the district head of Lampung Utara spends in just one province, one area. Of course, Indonesia is not alone in these high costs of elections. Across Southeast Asia, you find expensive elections, and I think Philippines scores very high, for example, Malaysia too. So there are expensive and cheap countries, and Indonesia scores so among the relative expensive ones. And in my talk, in this half hour, I want to talk to you about why that is. Why is it relatively expensive? And also what can be done about it, because this is a big problem. Now, to do that, we need to talk a bit about a few words. One is money politics, which is the key word that often Indonesia is used to refer to this problem, and which I define as the practice of politicians to share money to get support from both voters as well as relevant organizations. So political parties, for example, or civil society groups. And it is like a form, or it's related to a phenomenon called clientelism. And clientelism is the practice of exchanging favors, like resources or material goods, in exchange for electoral support, like votes, but also people participating in campaigns or financing campaigns. And so clientelism can take very different forms. The most well-known one is vote buying, where politicians hand out money in exchange for votes. But a clientelistic exchange is also when a politician promises a contract for a company, a government contract, in exchange for the company funding the election campaigns and giving a campaign donation. That is also a clientelistic exchange for when you get support for your campaign and in return you offer a favor. Clientelism can be illegal, but it does not have to be. And another thing on terminology, and then we're done with the terms, but it's important, is the contrast between clientelism on the one hand and programmatism on the other hand. Basically, politicians or parties have two ways of attracting voters. One way is through clientelism, so offering personal favors to voters in exchange for their vote. And the other is through their election program, so that you promise to implement certain policies or ideas that voters like, and not because that it's a personal benefit. I mean, if they benefit, it's because of the policy, not something that the politician personally does. So this is the part which in Indonesian election campaigns is called visi dan misi often. And you see in Indonesia the tension between attempts of politicians to campaign in a programmatic way, but finding that it's not effective, and then also employing clientelistic means, which is what makes elections very expensive. So this is where a part of the answer already begins. Now let's talk a little bit about vote buying. So the practice of politicians to hand out money during election campaigns. I think most of you come from different parts, and you have your own observations about politics. So just to kick off this new technique, I want to ask you whether the practice of vote buying in your area has gone up over the last 5-10 years, or gone down, or stayed at the same level. So this is just to get the practice going. You will now see this screen. One person answered yesterday, but I think now on your mobile phone or on your thing, you can answer how you think this is in your area. So I'm just going to wait until the answers come in. So indeed, I see people voting. Very well. Many people do not know. Maybe they're not from the area. And so I see a lot of people is at the same level. Some it has gone down, some it has gone up. Okay, nice. So we're getting some people says that vote now, more people say that vote buying has gone up, but also half of those who know says that it's the same. Maybe let me start. Somebody who says sedang turun, I don't have the names here, sorry. Can you unmute yourself and tell us in what area you're from, and how come where you say it has gone down? And I'll ask the same of where it's sedang naik. Who has answered sedang turun? Dan di mana sedang turun? Bisa menjawab dalam bahasa Indonesia juga, terserah. Jangan malu, tolong unmute and just tell us a little bit. Yang menjawab sedang turun praktek pembelian suara, vote buying.
Apakah jangan-jangan salah klik tuh?
Nobody? Well, let me move to the group who said pemilihan suara di wilayah Anda sedang naik. Who answered this? Who said this? And tolong menjelaskan di mana itu dan mengapa menjawab begitu? Feel free to come in. Just unmute yourself.
Mr. Ward?
Yeah.
Sorry, lad. I want to say something about sedang turun.
Yeah, also good.
Yes, because I'm from Jambi, in Jambi province. We are talk about pilkada di tahun 2020 kemarin yang sempat 2021 diselenggarakan. Terus sedang turun pemilihan suara karena di sana terjadi perbandingan yang signifikan terhadap harta kekayaan kandidat. Jadi kandidat yang menang ini adalah kandidat yang uangnya sedikit gitu. Dan ternyata praktek pembelian suara memang sedang turun gitu dan tidak lagi terlalu dihiraukan masyarakat.
Zaki, would you please to say it in English because we have international audiences too.
Okay.
No, but I can translate. That's fine.
But our other friends, so they can follow.
Okay, I repeat again, sir. Okay, I repeat.
Okay.
About in our province, Jambi is the candidate who win is have no money to significant. So big money as from PDIP and Golkar party is lost to Islam party in Jambi. I think that's it.
Okay, that's interesting. Huh? So you see that some candidates do vote buying, but actually the person with less money won the election, so that it was not very effective also. So it seems to be going down. Okay, one more person who can speak from his area, but about how di mana sedang naik dan mengapa.
Mr. Ward,
yeah,
may I explain the situation? about
Yes.
Serengai. The case is on a general election in 2019. So in my area in Jakarta, East Jakarta, in one of district in East Jakarta, actually there are some what I call a politician or politician that help the people when the people one of their family is die, then they help and they from Islamic Party. So the previous election, Islamic Party have more votes in this area, but in the general election 2019, some party that do not have vote yet in this area give the money, and then in 2019 the general election, this party have won the election because majority of the people here is poor people, so they need the money to buy their food. That's
And so in the elections, these people, they expect the politicians to help them with buying food and give money.
Yeah, they're waiting for that.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Thank you, Grienda. So it's nice from this story we get these two stories, observations. We get a few insights into how vote buying works. That there are a lot of voters in Indonesia that have come to expect money from politicians. That to be a good politician, you have to be willing to hand out money, as in Jakarta. But also, as we learned from Zakli, I think that it does not necessarily it's not always effective. And it doesn't mean that people that the candidates that hand out most money will win the elections. It doesn't mean always that the rich people always win, which is the good news. So with that, these observations from two areas, let us go back to the general overview. So in 2018, I think one of my colleagues, Burhan Muhtadi, published a book on vote buying in Indonesia, where he used opinion surveys, basically where it was asked indirectly whether respondents in the survey were given money during election campaigns. And he found in several surveys that it was about 20 to 33%. So he put it into one table where he also put in surveys from other countries. And you see, although this is not very exact science, but you see that Indonesia scores very high, about third place in the world then when it comes to vote buying, where 1/3 of the voters get money during election campaigns. So that is important, even if whether it's 33% exactly, that it's high is very important finding and very worrying, because that means candidates will spend a lot of money during election campaigns, and that money needs to be returned. So vote buying is one source of why elections in Indonesia are so expensive. It happens a lot. Voters expect it, as Grienda just explained. So it makes elections expensive. But there are other high costs in Indonesia, other sources of high costs that are particular to Indonesia. So here again, as somebody you are studying this or interested in, I would like to have a joint brainstorm here. What are other costs, sources of expenses in election campaigns? So I will, no, I should do it right. So let me go here again to the Menti screen. And this is a different type of question. Please type in your answers. Wait, here we go. I hope. No, not yet. Why not? I cannot see my screen. Sorry. Here. One moment. I'm juggling all the screens. Here we go. Okay. So, oh, this is still in Dutch. I should have deleted. But so here, please, now you see a typing thing on your screen where you can type your answer. So what is making the elections expensive according to you? What are things that politicians spend money on? Let's try to make a list together. So if you take the screen on your mobile phone or on the Menti screen, you can type.
Word, excuse me.
Yeah.
Is it possible for you to translate it into English? Because
yes,
some students they're
yeah.
Thank you.
So silakan dalam bahasa Indonesia dan nanti I will translate it. So we can do any language you want, or almost any language. So here we have Baliho, for example, the banners that politicians put up, indeed billboard campaigns, payment to political party to get the candidacy, indeed very important, the mahar politik. Here there's another one person saying the same thing, cost to pay the party admission fee. And here, dynasty politics. I think that dynasty politics itself is not expensive, but to get the political party to support your son or daughter or family member, which is a bit of the same, you have to pay. Ads on social media, yes, that's also important, pay the buzzer. And then here, so there's one on, what happens? There's one on vote buying again, Memberian Wang. So that they will be paid. And there's another an important thing, the saksi, to pay saksis at TPS, which indeed is very expensive. The witnesses at the voting booths, cyber troops, and socializatie in remote areas, which is also has a travel cost. Flyers, club goods is an interesting one because, well, I get to it. That's a social science term for a particular type of gifts. And the cyber troops, yeah. And so I think that we have quite a good list. And indeed, using artists is a new one. And hiring strategic communication companies is also a good one. These political consultants and the artists doing these big rallies, they put in a big screen, a big stage where people come. This all makes it very expensive. Thank you. So what I want to, so these are indeed, you captured the main, what I think are really important costs. And what's important is to think about why do politicians have to spend on some of these things. One of the things most of you mentioned is this one, the mahar politik, the money that voters give to parties to support them, which is often around 1 million per seat that a party has in local parliament. And this we're talking about Pilkada or Pilgub here, which is a lot of money. And why this is relevant to reflect on is that this is not a common or a normal way in which parties select candidates. That in many other democracies, it is one party that selects its own one candidate to run for elections. But in Indonesia, you have an election system that asks candidates to build a coalition of parties behind them with at least 20% of the seats. So there is not a close connection between one candidate and one party. And partly as a result of that, parties want money for their support. So here you see already a link between the electoral system that Indonesia has and one reason why the elections are so expensive. And that also we find if we talk about another element, which you did not mention in this sense, although indirectly it came up, that is building a team success or a campaign team. That if you look at the election campaigns in Indonesia, you find a very interesting phenomenon, which makes, again, Indonesia different from other countries, that election campaigns are not just organized by political parties. They also do, but to a less extent. But it's also organized by what in Indonesia is known as team success, which are ad hoc temporal campaign teams organized and set up by the candidates themselves, which means they don't have a ready-made campaign organization. They have to build it themselves when they want a candidate. So here you see all these logos of different organizations that politicians build to support their campaign, often coming out of civil society, out of a fisher organization, or if somebody has links with a professional organization, a soccer club, or a group of ustad, or any kind of social organizations candidates use. That is expensive. That you need to hand out gifts, you need to make promises to people to support your election campaign. And again, it has something to do with Indonesia's electoral system. I'll get to that later, that there's a reason why political parties cannot organize election campaign themselves as they do in most other countries, that why politicians rely on this phenomenon of team success. That is important. Now, and the third source of expenses is, as somebody named, club goods. These are gifts that politicians hand out to communities where they go. It's a little bit different from vote buying in the sense that it's not a gift to a person, but rather to a broader group. So here, I like this illustration from a candidate that was so well organized that he really noted down every gift that he was going to give. He was handing out TV polytrons, a machine potong rumput, so a grass mowing machine, machine pompa air, a machine genset. And the thing is, this is a gift to sometimes villages and sometimes a mosque as a kind of opening the door kind of gift, so that people, the community would receive him well, and that he could then start convincing them to vote for him. So a very common element of election campaigns, but also one that makes it very expensive. And then the fourth and more newer source of campaign expenditure, which was not on my radar when I was doing research in 2014, is what Vijay just talked about, the cyber troops, or the online campaign that candidates have. And they hire these buzzers and sometimes influencers to spread positive messages about them. And also that costs a lot of money. And Vijay already discussed with you the definition, but one thing what's interesting about how these cyber troops operate is that they look a lot like the team success. So the team success has a ring of coordinators, and then below them, coordinator kelurahan, coordinator RW, so local coordinators. These buzzers, in the research we found that cyber troops are similar, that they have a central coordinator, and below them different groups of buzzers organized under other coordinators. And I think it's likely that these cyber troops arose out of election campaigns, and that politicians then realized, oh, this is so useful, we should keep them alive after the election campaigns. Because nowadays, cyber troops are no longer only active during elections. As Vijay discussed, they are also active in after the elections, and then they help politicians to support their views and their policies, as Vijay described, in how they push for the new normal, for example, or defend the omnibus law, or defend the revision of the Caprica bill. So, but what's key here for my story now is that they are very expensive. And in our research, we found that there are quite a number of different funders of these cyber troops. We found these 4 groups: politicians themselves, political parties, often also the government themselves, circles around Jokowi, or sometimes groups within ministries that pay buzzers and their coordinators, or sometimes business people who just want to make friends with the regime and then pay some of these buzzing activities in favor of the government. And then later they feel like, look, I supported you, and they'll get some favors in return. The point here, and why this is so worrying, and this relates to some of the questions in the chat, is I think there are 2 key problems with the cyber troops and this new phenomenon that we are seeing now. One is that basically public debate gets confused, and the quality goes down because of misinformation. So we've seen, for example, that when there was the discussion about whether Caprica need to be reformed, these cyber troops pushed the narrative, pushed the message of Caprica is invested with Taliban, which was not at all true. There was no proof of that at all. But this was a way of these cyber troops to push something that their political bosses want, to get acceptance for reforming the Caprica. The problem is then, of course, the public is making up its opinion not based on facts or on rational considerations, but on false information, on fake news, which means that then they get the wrong opinion based on the wrong things. So this is very worrying. You get a public debate that is confused, that has a lot of misunderstandings, and that means people take the wrong decisions. So that's one major problem with cyber troops. But just as important is the second problem, that it it creates political inequality, which is already a big problem in Indonesia, that rich people have much more power in Indonesia than poor people, meaning that Indonesia's democracy has been called an oligarchy, meaning rule of the privileged. And so at present, rich economic elites are dominating Indonesia's democracy in the sense that they are getting elected. They are the most prominent politicians. They're all rich, but also rich people have better access to these politicians, so they can get the policies and the laws that are benefiting them. But the needs and the demands of normal people are not heard so much. And that is a problem and is getting worse because of cyber troops. We found in our research that cyber troops are paid by rich people to push for policies and laws that benefit rich people. The examples here are, for example, the omnibus law, as well as the revision of the Caprica bill. They were pushed by cyber troops, paid for by rich people. So the problem of cyber troops is that they create an unfair advantage for rich people, which is another reason why we should be worried about it and think about what to do to stop them. So just to summarize this part, so we've discussed together a little bit also reasons why elections are so expensive in Indonesia, because vote buying is very common, because there's this practice of buying party support, because there you have to build your team success. but also because there is this practice of setting up cyber troops. These are 4 things that are a bit special to Indonesia, although not absent elsewhere, but it's very high in Indonesia, very common, which makes elections very expensive. Now, before we get to the causes, just a few thoughts on the consequences. First of all, one of the causes is simply the stress for politicians themselves, that they have to spend so much money when they run for elections that if you lose, you are in big debt, and there are not a few that end up in a mental hospital because of that. But that's a minor consequence. Here are the 4 big reasons why vote buying is, why money politics is so worrying. One is that it creates corruption, that politicians, they want to balik modal. It's an investment, the expenses of the election campaign, and they have to return the investment. And that means that is why election campaigns are the main cause of why corruption is so rampant in Indonesia, because politicians need to be corrupt. They have to spend so much on elections that they need to be corrupt to return the money. Second problem with expensive elections is the one I already discussed, that it makes Indonesia's democracy oligarchic, that it leads to a democracy that is dominated by economic elites, because they are the only ones that can gather so much money and can run for elections. But also they are the only ones who, even if it's a normal person, he would depend on a rich financier to fund the election campaigns, which also is a means for economic elites to get benefits in Indonesia's democracy, even if they don't stand for elections themselves. The third problem is that it undermines Indonesia's bureaucracy, that it pushes politicians to also return some of the money by handing out positions, particularly at the local level, to people who pay. So if you want to be a Kepala Dinas or a Camat or some sort of promotion, often bureaucrats feel that they have to hand out money to the Bupati. And a fourth problem, which is also not minor, is that people feel disappointed and tired with democracy. Sudah lelah, because they see democracy is just people voting between rich people, and they're two spoiled rich millionaires all putting themselves up for candidacy, and there's not much of a difference. And you could see that last elections, in my view, when Indonesians were voting between Jokowi and Prabowo, you were looking at, even if the cells were not the richest, they were supported by 2 groups of economic elites. And they were not generally representatives of the interests and wishes of people, which makes people very tiring to vote and feel that it's disappointing, which is also a worry. So the high costs of election campaigns are a big worry and a big challenge that Indonesia's democracy faces. So that means we need to think about the causes and what can be done about it. So again, I want you to return to Mentimeter and feel free to type your thoughts. Why are elections so expensive? And that question is not on the screen, but feel free. Also, apa bisa dilakukan untuk mengurangi ongkos politik? So what can be done also to reduce the cost? I will put it on. Yes, one moment. Yeah, we go to the next one. So now I think, again, you're free to type. I would love to hear your thoughts here a little bit. I have mine, but I'd like to put them next to yours. Why are elections so, why are these costs? I deleted the word. It should be politik uang, huh? Not young. Sorry about that. So apa alasan utama politik uang begitu umum di Indonesia? So, and why are elections so expensive? And I'm adding here, what can be done about it? Apakah high cost election, apakah itu sesuatu yang alami yang tidak bisa dihindari, atau ada sesuatu yang bisa dilakukan untuk mengurangi ongkos politik, to reduce the cost of election campaigns? Yeah, I have the first thing is typed, to maintain the oligarchy. Yeah, interesting. So I think the first one means to reduce or to stop oligarchy. And the second solution might be, or what's seen here, is to have a very competitive election. So very many people participating with chances, so have good elections. Better education, I see here. Decentralized political powers. And this I find an interesting and good point. There's no limit to the expenses of how much politicians can pay during elections, and there's no accountability about the cost, the contributions to the campaign. So the solution is more transparency about this campaign funding, and the spending of political parties in an accountable way. I think that's a very good point. I'll return to that. Many people receive money. I want to make it scroll down. Yeah, the expensive electoral system. I'll get back to that. Now, why is my thing not scrolling? Wait.
Ward, excuse me to interrupt, but there is someone in the chat box who would like us to put the question of the voting in English. So perhaps.
Oh yeah. So
according to Indonesia. Thank you.
According to you, what is the main reason why elections are so expensive in Indonesia, and what can be done about it? That is the question. Now, why is this not scrolling down? Look here. So I love to see this. So many good thoughts. I'm just going to translate a few of them. I'm not even see. There's so many. So the main reason, the electoral system, wide constituencies, the political parties are used as political vehicle. There's small, you can, there's a threshold, and I'm not sure about this one. There's no convention in presidential elections. So what we need is electoral system reform. Now, I couldn't agree more. So I'll get, this is a very comprehensive answer that I'll get back to. And here, the candidates don't know the voters don't know the candidate really well, so that they just vote somebody in the shortcut way with through reasons of money. Indeed, there's a connection with the politician. That is a problem. Low quality of leadership, limited political participation, lack of knowledge here again also. Lack of good political platforms. I also agree with that one. The thing on the right, I cannot see really well because of the Zoom thing. So there is no law that that really regulates the role of money during elections in a clear way. Related to another answer we saw, I think it's also a very good point. The rich and powerful have more networks. So it gets a bit almost feudal. That's indeed part of the problem. And indeed, there's some sort of, this one says, there's some sort of what you might say prisoner dilemma, that one, you don't know, you don't want to be outspent, so candidates keep on spending. And we read too little books. Well, that's a very nice one. I also agree with that. And the masyarakat have become skeptical. People become skeptical. So they think, well, if this is all fake, I should also just take my own money. And then just one last addition here about a cultural thing. It has become a culture of politics to ask for money, I think this means. So thank you very much. This is a very rich share of a rich harvest of thoughts. And a lot has come up that I also wanted to emphasize. Basically, you know, it could. There are three directions that you could go with your explanations for why elections are so expensive, and they came up in your chat. One is, this was one of the last, about culture, and that voters there's these norms of reciprocity and voters expect to be paid. And the second one is more about the development of Indonesia, that there's a economic condition that make people poor, that ask for money, and that they're not educated enough. But where my argument for the last 10 minutes of my talk will go is into this last type of explanations, which is about institutions, the way in which Indonesia is organized in another way. And in particular, the electoral system. And I was happy that many of you already brought it up, that next to complex long-term things like history and culture and Indonesian economy, there's also something in Indonesia's electoral system that is making the campaigns very expensive. And this has to do with how political parties are made weak and how the electoral system forces politicians to spend money. And I want to discuss that a little bit. And I will be brief because we can talk long about it, but there's no time. One thing is that this key thing of the election campaigns, that you see political parties so little, and that you have this phenomenon of team success, and that even when you say presidential campaign candidates have their campaigns, you see very little party flags. So in Indonesia's democracies, parties have been pushed to the side. They are not irrelevant, but they're not very important either, which means that candidates are setting up their own team success, which makes the campaign very expensive. And also that after the elections, people don't really go to political parties to solve their problems. I've visited many of these kantor partai of this Cabang Lampung or Cabang wherever, and you always see that it's very empty. People will not go there. They don't have anything, a reason to go there. So parties are not very strong. And this is shown in opinion surveys. Here, voters are asked whether they feel close to a political party. And you see that early, the date fell off, sorry, but this is 1990s. This is 1908, so where Reformasi started. And so early in Reformasi, you still see many people feel close to a political party. And now this went down to about 10% of voters that feel close to a party. Most people don't. So it has become a candidate center electoral system that we have in Indonesia, no longer close to a political party. And that makes elections very expensive. I can skip this slide because I made that point already. You have to build your own team success. You have to spend money to build relationship with voters because you're new. If you would have a party, they would already have that relationship, but you as a candidate now have to do it yourself. And you have to spend money to do this mahar politik, to get parties to support you. So weakness of political parties is making elections expensive. And the electoral system is doing that. Here are 4 reasons why, and also why what can be done about it. It's the open list system. That's one thing, that there is, since 2009, in each parliamentary elections, candidates can be chosen to parliament no matter which position they have on the list. If position number urut 10, the person number 10 on the list, has one more vote than number urut 1, the first person on the list, then number 10 gets elected. Now this seems democratic, and in theory it is, but the problem is that it has led to a wave of vote buying, because then number urut 10, the number 10, feels that he can win if he spends more than number 1. So all candidates then spend money, but also they don't feel loyal to the party anymore. They run individually. They don't run as a team. Second, it's the electoral system that says, no, it's not parties that dominate candidates, it's coalition of parties, which creates this practice of Maharpolitik. And thirdly, the direct elections themselves make parties weak, because you have elections for a candidate, for a district head, and for a governor, not for a party in a parliamentary system that you have in many other countries. So while there are also concerns with the parliamentary system, it's important to emphasize that the kind of direct election type that Indonesia has adopted has weakened political parties and has made elections also more expensive. We can discuss the fourth point. It's a little bit more complex, but it's important also. I'm focusing on these three. So what can be done? And I think in the chat, you already typed some of these electoral reforms that I can just support, because they were very good points about, for example, better regulating both the campaign funding and the campaign spending. There's no accountability right now, as somebody said, and there's also not enough efforts to stop campaign spending. When I was doing my campaign and my fieldwork in 2014, I found that Bawaslu, the regulatory body of the elections, was basically powerless to stop vote buying, because it was very difficult, according to the current rules, to prove vote buying, and they didn't have any money to really supervise and to go around and to catch people in the act. I think their authority could be strengthened very easily, and it could be a more forceful instrument to stop vote buying and to make elections cheaper in that way. I'm a favor of electronic voting, because I think this need for all these witnesses at the voting booth is really is a big source of expense, and that is money that leads to corruption, etc. So I think Indonesia needs to find a way to get rid of the witnesses, the saksi at the voting booth. And I'm in favor of a closed list system. And the fourth point here is a bit more complex to discuss, but I think for Indonesia, the best thing that would work is a mix of a parliamentary system as a presidential system, where you would vote for a political party, but then the number one candidate on that list automatically becomes Bupati or governor. So you integrate the Pilkada and the Pileg. And in that way, you not only have one less election, so less expenses, but also you stimulate parties to work with, you strengthen political parties, which I think is needed. So these are just a few propositions that I have, but my main point that we can disagree, and they have pluses and minuses. But the main point here is that electoral system reform is needed. It could be these reforms, it could be others reforms, but they're needed to reduce the cost of elections, because the costs are right now so high that they are really damaging both the quality of democracy and the quality of governance. And I'm saying this to you because I hope you would be the persons to take this up in your future life and to fight for electoral reform and to make it happen, because I think this is the key evil, the key challenge that democracy in Indonesia faces, and it can be solved. So that's that. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Ward. So we have quite a lot of questions, about 14 or 15 questions already. So I hope that we have time to discuss about it all. First, I would like to call Zakli Hanafi. Zakli, would you like to unmute your micro and then ask the question by yourself?
Can you repeat again, Miss?
Would you like to ask your question directly? You posted a question on the chat box for
Oh,
Wija.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I just asked a question about the democracy in Indonesia to Mr. Wijayanto. This question is about democracy in Indonesia is relative new into a digital era, and then the buzzer appears as a cyber troops of a government who we know it's a fake name and picture account, and mostly all of them is make a hateful narrative and make people to be afraid to express their opinions. The question is, does this phenomenon actually cause a decline in democracy that make people become apathetic in the future to express their opinion? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay. I'm waiting for Truly to say something. Can I answer now, or you want to collect the questions? Oh, okay.
How do you prefer? You prefer, because there are about 14 or 15 questions here. So I think it's better if we answer one by one.
Okay, then.
What do you think, Ward and Wija?
I think so, because unless I forget, right? Okay, then. Yeah, that's a simple question, but yeah, first of all, I would like to say congratulations. Yeah, welcome to my class, exactly. Right, this is a new student, and this is his first day of digital politics, and I bring my students here to suddenly jump into this pool, and that's simple, but actually the simple question is actually the sharp and deep question. So what's the impact of Indonesian democracy? Does it cause a decline? The short answer will be yes, because democracy, we rely on public sphere, right? This is one of the central element of democracy. If we have a good public sphere, we have a free public sphere, then the public, the citizens can share their aspiration, to the politician or to the government. However, our public sphere is infiltrated or dominated by the cyber troops. The narrative is dominated by the cyber troop. So the public sphere, in short, doesn't function. And another thing is that democracy requires a healthy public sphere. A place where the information is circulated there, a truth, a true information or correct information. However, if the public sphere is full with fake news, with hoax, with wrong narrative by the cyber troops, then it's difficult to find the information. Democracy needs assume that the citizen is a rational actor which can decide for themselves, and that decision is based on the information. And if our public sphere is full of hoaxes and hate speech, then it's going to be hard. I remember Ben Anderson once visited Amsterdam, in 2013. He said that the information, the correct information, is like the air for democracy. So if our public sphere is full with with falsehood, with fake information, then it's like a carbon dioxide. Yeah, it will kill democracy slowly. That would be my answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wija. We will go to next question by Astu Putri Wilujeng. She has question for Wija and Ward. So Astu, are you still there? And if you can ask the question by yourself, or do you need any help?
Okay, I will ask my questions by myself.
Okay, go on, Astu.
Okay, I have two questions. First, how tweets can represent the public? Because Indonesia Twitter user is only 15.7 million in per July 2020. And then the second question is about the incumbent. If the incumbent use cash program or share the staple food program near in the time of election, can we call it as money politics? Then how we tackle the legalized money politics that the incumbent use? I think those were my questions. Thank you.
So who would you like to answer first, Wija or Ward?
I think what gets the longer question, so it should answer than me.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Estu. And this is indeed relevant. This question of how, when politicians, when they're elected in office, use government resources like the cash program or handing out tobacco as a way to win elections. And it relates to a question that Lila Sari asks, where political parties are using COVID vaccines, they're handing it out under their own banner and name, and then to say, look, I helped you, please be grateful and return the favor during the elections. Both is maybe not money politics, but it is clientelism. So it's not money politics in the sense that it's not their money that is involved, it's state resources. But it is a way of doing this tukar kepentingan, or creating this sense of utang budi among voters, that I gave you something, now you should return the favor to me during the elections. What is interesting, by the way, that if I can answer a little bit longer, that this practice of handing out state resources is very common across many democracies, and a kind of a clientelistic trick, that once you're elected, you use your control over these state resources to make voters happy and thankful to you. And actually, it reduces money politics in the sense that you don't have to do much vote buying if you have been handing out all these favors, because voters are already grateful to you. So actually, one reason why elections are so expensive in Indonesia is that many candidates cannot do this, what Estu asks, that it's only the incumbents. And if you are a challenger, you don't have the state resources to hand out these favors. So you have to use your money. And it's in countries where political parties are stronger and have more control over state resources, like these cash programs or staple food, tobacco, then they can use this to avoid doing vote buying. And this is what I saw in India, where there is vote buying, but much less, because political parties are doing this kind of distribution that Estu and also Lila talked about. In itself, so the double answer here, in itself, it's not a nice thing. You want it to be neutral. But the funny thing is that when political parties hand out state resources, at least they don't have to hand out money. So it does reduce the role of money. So a long answer, but because it's a complex and important issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Estu, go on.
Okay. Then how we select the programs that the incumbent or the government will use, create, which one is for their election and which one is the real programs? Can we make any selection, or maybe like checking first the programs? This question.
Well, so in a democracy like Indonesia, you would see this kind of underground struggle going on between bureaucrats that take a program like the ones you make and that say, look, we have rules and regulation, and we should just distribute the sembako according to criteria, formal rules. So when it's a family yang tidak mampu, yang di bawah garis kemiskinan, when it's a poor family, he or she should get the support, the sembako. So then it's according to program and policy. But what often happens is that politicians then come in and then take the program and says, well, let's not use these rules. I would prefer to hand out the program to people that are likely to support me. And I would hand it out not in the name of the government, but in my personal name. So a program is not clientelistic when it's handed out according to rules and regulation. But the strategy of politicians, their way of winning elections, is to try to make it a clientelistic program, to use the program to then reward their supporters. So this is what happens secretly behind the screens. And it's difficult to say from the outset. But in Indonesia, there are programs that are designed as clientelistic things like Dana Aspirasi. This is programs that help politicians basically to reward their supporters, which is a worrying thing. So the shorter answer to you, and more clear perhaps, is to say it's important that there are government programs that have clear official formal criteria about who should be getting it, and not leave it to the politicians to decide who should be getting the program, because then they use it as a campaign tool.
Okay, Lila, since the answer was also addressed to you, would you like to add something, or would you like to give any comment?
Thank you so much, Ward, for answering my questions. What do you think is the rationale of this ruling party to also share it with the other opposition party?
Yeah, that's a good question. And by the way, very interesting question, because I didn't know that this was happening this way, that political parties was distributing the vaccines. I'm actually surprised that usually what usually happens is that ruling parties, they try to monopolize state resources and handing it out themselves. So handing it out to opposition parties also seems not like a political selfish strategy, but more maybe their thinking was not self-interested in this moment, and just thinking we need to distribute as many vaccines as we can. But then I'm surprised, because Indonesia has such a good system of puskesmas. Why go through political parties and not to puskesmas? Your whole story is interesting and surprises me.
Okay, so Wijaya, perhaps you can answer Estes' question.
Okay, what's the question again? Does the tweet represent public? Yeah, is that the question? Okay. The tweets, of course, they represent public, yeah, and of course, with the disclaimer, yeah, not all of the public, right? Not everyone, but in digital public sphere, we have digital citizenship. Digital citizens, they are citizens as well, but they, if we refer to ISIN, for instance, that citizenship is about rights and about the attempt to claiming right, yeah. So people actually in our research, not just the research, yeah, but also in the research about the rise of the price of health insurance premium, yeah, like kenaikan harga BPJS, there are so many people protesting this policy. And can we say them as a public? In my view, yes. But if you ask me whether does it represent all of the Indonesian public, no, of course. Right? If we talk about rakyat, which we can always ask which rakyat, but at least they represent some of the voice of the people. So in this regard, Twitter, the post by real people, yeah, it represents actually the aspiration of the people. For instance, if activists like Mbak Anita Wahid here, yeah, or my friend, the speaker yesterday, Dani Dulasono, they oppose the Caprica law revision, and also they oppose omnibus law, yeah. Then I can say that some of the public, yeah, they refuse the policy using Twitter. But when it was Cybertroop who did it, I don't think we can say it as public, because but it depends on the kind of Cybertroops. Yeah, some of the Cybertroops they tweet because of they believe, yeah, it's part of their ideology. However, in our research we also found the kind of Cybertroops that can be called as cyber mercenary. So they will tweet or they will create any narrative regardless of the issue, whether they agree or not, as long as the money is good. So that's some of the findings. So to answer your question shortly, Twitter and the conversation there represent some part of the public, but it has some notes, yeah, in it, like what I have just explained.
Okay. Talking about cyber troops, and there is one interesting question about how do we counter these cyber troops. Nina Susilo, perhaps you would like to ask your question directly?
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the insightful presentation, Mas Wijaya and Ward. It's about the public opinion manipulation through the cyber media, as I remember, were supported by the political elite. So, for example, when the Caprica law were in process to be revised, there were tsunami tweets, as Mas Wijaya and friends research. And in this situation, I remember that not only in the social media, there were tweets that affect public opinion, for example, but the political elites themselves, they also push the issue through the mainstream media elites. For example, the one I remember that the vice president invited several mainstream media elites, and they also explained about the extremists were found in KPK, and then of course it had effect. Even though maybe in several mainstream media it would appear some debate in the newsroom, but well, it was strengthening the opinion that was manipulated. So I think the public society also need to know how to counter the narrative, the opinion that is manipulated by the system, by the government, for example. What kind of narrative that the public society can do in the social media?
Okay.
How do we counter the cyber troops?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Can I answer, Rui?
Yes, but before there is an interesting comment as well from Tommy that I think relates to Nina's question. Perhaps Tommy, you would like to tell it by yourself?
Which question? Because I put one response and one.
The last one, you wrote a comment. It is a comment, not a question. So perhaps.
So, do you mean the question for Mas Vija?
Yes, about you're asking Vija to explain about the recent interesting development, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Mas Vija, I think you follow this development in which in the last few weeks we heard that the influencers and the buzzers group associated with the government, many of them are being silenced due to the political rivalry between the palace and the Kumar, the house of Ibu Megawati. I think it will add nuance to your research because it proves, for me at least, it proves that buzzer is very politically tied to the, what is bohir in bahasa Inggris, or to the
Bohir, the money owner, the rich people.
The money owner, yes, the money or the political power behind
the tycoon. Yeah, tycoon is the right word from
the tycoon. Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mas Tommy. Yes, Mas Tommy is the alumni of Sekolah Demokrasi BDS. Yeah, he's the Ketua alumni and the chairman of the alumni, and we are discussing about it a lot in that group as well. So of course, we're familiar with that story. Okay. Actually, there are a lot of questions, that can relate to this question. Yeah. First, I would like to say thanks, to Mas Tommy and Mbak Nina, who asked first. But Mbak Nina is a journalist from Kompas daily newspaper, So, of course, I have no reasons not to believe in his story that the vice president invited the newsroom elite, right? This is turtle, in France. So it's an Indonesian language. Maybe I'm not. Okay, so and it provides an example. It answers the question actually from Aisyah Putri and also from Johannes. The answer, the question is basically, it's just Twitter. Twitter is only followed by a little part of Indonesia. There's Facebook has a wider audience. YouTube has a wider audience, right? Or Google. Twitter is only something percent of Indonesian public. But I think it has beberapa puluh juta, tens of thousands, millions. I don't know where on the latest data. I think it's 100 or something. But still, even though let's say it's 10 million, 10 million is a lot. Not just because of the number, but also because of the impacts. I think what Mbak Nina just says is, answers that question. Because what's the main question is, we like I have shared you in the first day, because the first day is opening. So on the second day. The second day about the internet and democracy. Internet is just a medium. It will be a good medium or a bad medium. It depends on the society, right? And because our society is dominated by the oligarchy, and the cyber troop was paid by the oligarchy, so what it represents in the tweet, no matter how little the number is, But 50 million tweets in case of Caprica is not little, and also 2 million tweets about supporting omnibus law is not little number. Yeah, but it also represents the agenda of the oligarchy. That's why it is serious, right? Talking about the Caprica and Taliban issue, right? I guess nobody believes. I mean, no activists. Yeah, at least I never believe it. I never bought that. Yeah. However, the vice president invite the news anchor and the news elites, would bring pressure as well. I suppose. Yeah. I haven't done research on it, but I had rumors from my friends who are journalists that they were also pressured. Yeah. To cover the issue of the Taliban. When I say force, doesn't mean that force like in the New Order era. Yeah? The force can be it can be persuasive, it can be just a suggestion, but suggestion, even though it's politely expressed, it's something. Yeah, if it's from the more powerful party. So if the vice president invited the newsroom anchor to amplify this Caprica and Taliban thing, then so the agenda reflects the agenda of the oligarchy. That's why it matters, right? And in terms of the public, Aisyah Putri asked me, asked in the chat box, why Twitter is important, because Coach Guido Ambardi said that Twitter is biased, don't reflect the public. Yes, of course, it doesn't reflect all of the public, but it reflects the thought of some Indonesian public. And what matters is because we have a journalism culture. It has something to do with Indonesian journalism culture, because our journalists, the online journalists, online journalism, online mass media, especially, they easily take what is trending in Twitter, be it right or wrong, right? And our citizen, and it has something to do with the literacy of our public, our people in general, or us in general. If I ask you, how many of you here subscribe to the paid journalism, like Kompas.id? Or Mbak Anita said yes, of course, yeah. Or Tempo.co. How many of you? Raise your hands, please. Who subscribe with the paid news like Tempo or Kompas? Now I will raise my hand as well because I subscribe to Kompas.id and I subscribe to Tempo as well. And it's cheap, not expensive. But mostly Indonesian, even my friends, my friend he is a PhD, he is a doctor too. He said in Indonesia, why should we pay while we can get it free? So people still, I'm not saying, I don't mention his name, but I just want to say that it reflects Indonesian people in general. We read news like, these are 10 things that will keep you young. The factor number 7 will yeah. Gimana, Mbak?
Number 7 will blow your mind.
Will blow your mind, right? That's the example of our news, right? Or sometimes it's just so brutal or vulgar, yeah. Many topics like that. Or in the case of KLB involving the Ketua Umum, the chairman of Partai Demokrat, the Democrat Party, and there was a news in Twitter about that, that AHY, Agus Harimurti Yudhoyono, was involving in love scandal, cinta terlarang, forbidden affair of Agus Harimurti Yudhoyono. I'm very critical of the political parties, but this kind of thing, this kind of attack, I don't agree. Yeah, and media such as Pikiran Rakyat, I have in my other presentation in another day, I have presented about it a lot, wrote about it, and many news, online news wrote about it, and I interviewed one of the buzzers. He said to me, why we use that AHY to attack Partai Demokrat, because back then there's also a gossip about Nisa Sabian. Nisa Sabian, this is a singer of a vocal group or music group in Indonesia, who was rumored as having affair, and we use that trending topic, because there's a wave, so we put it inside. So the AHY story about his love affair, which is not true, we put it there. So we use the wave to get it viral. So and so it has something to do with Indonesian journalism, because Indonesian journalism, like suggested by many media scholars, like Medina Lim, Yanuar Nugroho, my research as well. Our journalism culture is like that, and our digital, media literacy of the public is still so low. My point is that good news is actually our responsibility. So we have to read it critically if we want to get a quality journalism. Because this is our responsibility, we have to be willing to buy it, because it's not expensive actually. Just so it's a complicated situation, And I think Adip, one of our researchers, also at a point in which those elites in Twitter, they have followers. They have thousands of followers in our research, and what they say for the followers, for the loyal followers, are correct. It impacts 1,000 or tens of thousands of people. So of course that matters. That would be the question. But I agree that Twitter is not the most used platform, but it also says a lot of about the Indonesian elites agenda, and also about the media agenda. I hope that answers the question. Oh yeah, but the real question from Mbak Nina is, how do we counter it? I think I have answered as well, to Mas Tommy before, and this is also the point from the question, from Mbak Anita Wahid, I think, who asked. Oh no, I think it's a different question. For any friends, some of the question asked about how do we counter it. That's also actually my the question that I've been thinking. One of the answers to counter it is to a lot of things. First, we have to increase the digital literacy of Indonesian public in general. So we don't easily, we don't easily follow a quiz. I told you, a quiz to put the hashtag KPK Taliban or KPK should obey the rule. They paid 50,000 for 2 people, but a lot of Indonesian public put that hashtag to get that money. So they were blown by the they were taken by the buzzer or cyber troops attempt. Second, the Indonesian journalists. I think Indonesian journalists have to be careful not to amplify the agenda of the cyber troops, of the buzzers. Third, I think the civil society can learn that they are strong because they use cyber troop. They organize themselves very well, and they could create so many tweets, conversation in a very short period of time. So civil society have to learn to do the same, I think, and we have to unite and to use the technology as well to counter the story. Because there was a success story actually, like I have presented to you, in my presentation. I think I will show you, in the case of this omnibus law, like we can see in the in the slides. Cyber troops. Here we go. Oh no, it's not this one. I hope I find it. When K-popers dominated the conversation, so it should be here. I hope I find it. Oh no, I think I lose it. It's not here. But anyway, what I want to tell you is there was a period of time, I think a couple of days, in which the K-popers, the young generation, they opposed the narrative of Omnibus Law, they reject Omnibus Law, and it dominated, it became trending for several days on Twitter. So in terms of number, they outnumber the cyber troops. However, they don't have the endurance. You know, the cyber troops, they stay on Twitter for a longer period of time, of course, because they are paid, right? But the K-pop don't have that energy, the K-popers. So so it reflects actually the fight between the citizen and the oligarchy, right? They have so many resources, they have material, and they have interest. While we, civil society, we have lack of resources, and we are fragmented as well at the same time. You know, one of the reasons, in my view, why the movement to reject Caprica law was not successful was because of the fragmentation of the civil society, as in many issues actually. Corruption for some part of the civil society, maybe they will say that's not my issue. You know, I concerned about women only, for instance, yeah, or about LGBT only, yeah, about queer group only. That's my specific aim. So corruption is far from my agenda. Of course, I don't say that all of the civil society, but some of them. So that's why in one or several days ago, a workshop in Jogja, in which I and Anita Wahid was there. It's important to have cross issues literacy in the civil society. So we have to understand issue in other sector to strengthen our movement. Yeah, that will be my attempt to answer the question. I hope that answers it.
Can I add a little bit to it?
Yes, of course, Ward.
In addition to these things, what is also needed, I think, is a normative debate about what is good behavior on social media and what is bad behavior. Because right now, I think the government is not called out by the fact that funding public opinion manipulation is bad behavior. This is not something you should do as a government, to manipulate the thinking of your people, not with good information, with you as a person giving information, but by hiring secretive buzzers spreading fake news. That is not something a government should do, a democratic government. And I think there's too little debate about this, an awareness that, look, this is unethical, damaging democracy, and it should stop. And the same goes an ethical debate about behaviors of influencers, that they take money from the government and then support their opinions in exchange for money. That's also unethical. That's not good behavior, and they should be called out for it. I think the problem is that these influencers are mistaking digital marketing with opinion manipulation. If you brand a product and you say, I bought this new t-shirt from this brand and it's very nice, and you get paid for it, it's okay. It doesn't damage public debate, and people know it's advertisement, it's okay. But if you take up public issues of public debate and you take a position and you support ideas only because you get paid for it, then you damage the quality of public debate, and you create a situation where rich people can push through their opinions. And I think it's unethical behavior from influencers, and they also need to be called out. They need to be asked why they engage in such behavior and that it should stop. So there should be an ethical debate that is both with government and with influencers, what is the right behavior on internet and what is bad behavior, so that they become aware that actually this is bad behavior that should stop.
Yeah, I also would like to add, I forgot Mas Tommy points, about there's recently some of the government supporters Twitter account or social media accounts were attacked, and they were not active anymore. Sadly, the attack came from within the oligarchy itself, right? Not from the opposition or the public. So and the story is like in the real politics in the offline world, when the elites were when the rumor that I heard is that those accounts that were hijacked or they were attacked were the supporters of GP, Ganjar Pranowo in Jateng, and those who attacked was the follower. They were the follower of another PM, another candidate for presidential candidate, So that's the rumor that they shared. So sadly, it's not representing the rise of the civil society resistance, toward the issue. That only reflects the politics in Indonesia in general, that the change happen or the conflict actually the dynamic happens within the oligarchy itself, and we're expecting that perhaps we can use it for the agenda of the civil society, but in this regard, in that specific case, I doubt it. That would be my take, And one other thing, perhaps for those who are not from communication science, or you are not familiar with the theory of agenda setting, the theory of agenda setting basically says that the mass media, they are not always successful at making you agree in something. However, they are always successful in making you think about that something. So for instance, if every day in the newsroom or in the news you read about Caprica sarang Taliban, Caprica is the place for extremism, maybe you don't agree, maybe you think that Caprica is not the place of Taliban or of extremism. However, if you read it every day, then perhaps you will tend to agree, or you start thinking like this. Yes, Caprica perhaps not the place of Taliban, that's impossible, but maybe some of them are hardliners, we never know, right? So that's what people in general will think. That's how propaganda works, right? A falsehood, if it's repeated every day for millions times, then people will start to believe it. That would be the logic of the propaganda.
Okay, thank you, Ward and Vijay. So I think it answers as well the question raised by Aisa Putri and Rizky, I think. And talking about the oligarchy's propaganda, who tries to dominate the society in the digital society. There is an interesting question from Ebihara. Ebihara, would you like to address your question directly?
All right, thank you, Ms. Moderator. I think part of my question has been answered by Pak Vijay. I think the question is, the ethnography, I think, is very interesting method in digital technology, digital democracy. So, will you probably elaborate more regarding to how the opposition managed to survive, and since the governments try to narrow the space for the opposition. So please elaborate. And this one question as well for Dr. Watt, I think. Yeah, probably example in other countries is interesting to learn how to overcome this money politics. So would you probably give more explanation with that to India or Netherlands or France, or how do they manage to overcome the money politics? Because anyway, in many countries, America as well, politicians need money to run election or to conduct their political activities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ebihara. I thought you were Japanese because your name is Ebihara, but you're from Jember? Okay.
Yes, I am from Jember.
Okay. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
I think your question relates to question by Taufan Malaka. Perhaps you can share your question at the same time, so Ward and Vija will be able to answer them at the same time.
Still mute, Taufan.
Yeah, we cannot hear you, Taufan. Nope, we still cannot hear you. It worked well yesterday, so I think I hope there isn't any problem at your place. So you want me to read your question or? Nope, still, sorry. Okay, I think technical issue. I will read your question, Taufan, but I will just, read it briefly, okay? Because there are certain words that I cannot pronounce. Okay, so question to Ija. Can we improve the UU ITE, or the, how do we say it in English? The law of electronic, someone perhaps can help me with the translation? Undang-undang ITE.
Information and electronic law, yeah?
Okay, thank you, Ija. To regulate cyber troops. Second question to Ward. Do you think Indonesian elite and party want to escape money politics, but they do not know how to escape and they suffer from schizosism, that politics and money are a game that Indonesian politicians should enjoy and play? Thank you.
I will answer. What you want to answer first?
Okay, these are two questions that go nicely together. Ebihara asked, what have other countries done to prevent or reduce money politics? And this question about what are elites willing to do this? The recommendation in my talk are basically summarize something that other countries do. Like in India, you mentioned India, they have a much more aggressive policy on vote buying. So their Bawaslu goes around in cars supervising election campaigns, and so trying to stop any kind of handout of money and alcohol, but also it has better legal rules, so it can arrest people even if they don't have yet handed out the money. If they find the money in a car, they'll arrest people. So that's one, better supervision. Other countries also have much more accountability, better rules of how much politicians can spend. And the KPU there in other countries is following it. But, and that was my main point of my presentation, the key thing of other electoral system, the way in which money politics has been reduced is by having strong parties. In other countries, when you have weak parties, you will have a lot of money politics. that was the point of my presentation, and that's key for Indonesia. It now has an electoral system that weakens political parties, and because of that, you have team success, you have the need of vote buying, that makes elections so expensive. So Indonesia needs to rethink the policy of weakening political parties and instead have an electoral system that strengthens them, makes them more viable institutions and play their positive role in democracy. So that on what can be done, with the comment that of course other countries do suffer from this problem. And you mentioned America, the United States, they have a big money politics problem, of course, also. So this is not an easy problem to fix, but it's an important one. And related to whether the elites in Indonesia are willing to fix the problem, well, maybe some not, because they feel I can become dominant in politics because at least I have the money to participate and my competitors not. But in general, and actually, I think a lot of politicians that I interviewed are really fed up with Indonesian elections. That for them, it's very annoying that you have to put up so much money up front and you don't know if you win. So many in the interview said that they feel like penjudi, like gamblers that are gambling with their money and get stressed that they spend so much money and do not know what it leads to. So even if it's for selfish reasons, I think actually Indonesia's political elite also wants to reduce the role of elections, the role of money in elections. It's just that there's a lack of ideas, that they feel, oh, this is what elections and democracy is, so it costs a lot of money. So why don't we just draw back democracy and stop elections? I think that's not the solution. The solution is what I said: reform the electoral system, make Bawaslu stronger, make political parties stronger, so that in that way democracy can be cheaper and can in many ways be saved. Because there was a question here from, sorry, I'll answer that one straight away. From
Bruce?
From no, not Griena, sorry, there's so many questions. From Verna Pena, who says, if this happens one day, that there's so much money and that democracy is no longer in accordance with the principle of democracy. This is not happening one day in the future. This is happening right now. Right now, money politics is so strong in Indonesia that democracy is, in your words, no longer in accordance with the principles of democracy. So something needs to be done about it right now, not in the future.
So there is a similar question as well from Bruce Dame Laura about the crowdfunding. Does the trend of crowdfunding a political candidate also happen in Europe? Perhaps you can answer that one too, Ward.
Well, it happens in the United States, and in Europe we have a difficult funding system where the state plays a lot of role. So more than half of election campaigns is paid by public subsidies, which is a very good thing because that takes away the influence of big companies like you see in the United States. It's better to have public funding, but as a second option, I do think that crowdfunding, meaning small donations from individuals, is a way to reduce the power of oligarchy. And you see that trend also in the United States, and that's important. But not so much in Europe because we have this different electoral system. Like in the Netherlands, both individuals and parties are not so much used to paying for election campaigns because it's usually paid only by the state and by membership. That is another important thing to add. So that although it has been declining, there was a tradition at least of people becoming a member of political party, and their membership fees was then used to pay for election campaigns. Both things keep oligarchy out, so that is important.
Okay, Wija, you would like to add?
Yeah, okay, just actually I have answered the question. Yeah. from Pak Ebihara. Opposition always in our research we found a lot of civil resistance in many cases. Yeah, in every narrative actually there was always counter from the civil society to for instance, in the case of Caprica law, in the case of omnibus law, a lot of and sometimes we won, yeah, we won in some period of time, but in the end we were beaten because we don't have the endurance. That's what I will say. So it's actually can I go directly with some question that relates to there's a question from Anthony Lee here, yeah, Mas Anthony Lee, perhaps you would like to ask it directly here.
Thank you, Mas. Yeah. Well, yeah, I have a question which I think it's from my perspective, it's a little bit reflection and also an existential question in the side of mainstream media. I was just wondering because in the case of 2019 Caprica law revision, the mainstream media newsroom standing position is rather fragmented, I would say. So not all the media house support or criticize the Caprica law revision, for example. And let's say if we compare to the episode of Gecko versus Crocodile and also 2019 Caprica law revision report, well, I would say that mainstream media stands are rather solid. They refuse the law revisions, and they also support Caprica. But in 2019, their stance were a little bit fragmented, I would say. Some media house support the revision, and the other did not support the revision. I was wondering, would the impact of online manipulation effort from the cyber mercenaries, as you coined the term, will be extremely different if the mainstream media have similar position as it was before when the Caprica law revision happened in 2019 and there were those movement from the cyber troops. And secondly, this is the existential question that I face every time we do agenda setting, and it's a little bit different with, let's say, with the narrative that was forced by digital or the cyber troops. Do you think that mainstream media in this time where we face difficulties in transforming ourselves from traditional based print media, for example, toward the digital one, and that is still an ongoing process? And do you think that we still have enough power or still strong enough to prevent and to oppose the manipulations that happen in social media? And if you think that we do have enough power to resist that, under what condition? And the last question is about the narrative of, I understand that you did sentiment analysis to understand what were the public moods during that time. I was wondering if you also analyze the pattern of the narrative, whether there are characteristics where it can be accepted by the internet users and under what characteristic was not accepted by the netizen, for example. Because if we refer to what Marina Lim said in her works in Many Clicks, Little Stick, as you presented a few days ago, there are two preconditions that have to be fulfilled before an activism, if we can say that this is the cyber truth is a negative activism. The first one is that it is in line with the narrative of the mainstream media. And secondly, which is I think it's important, it's also in line with the meta narrative of nationalism and religiosity. I would say, well, perhaps you can give us some more explanation about this issue. And about what I think I have just a brief comment about what suggestions about that we have to, in order to handle the money politics issue, we have to change our system from open list to the closed list, so that we will have better political parties and also possibly strengthen the party IDs. In the sense, it's well, there have been some debates in Indonesia as well about these issues, but I think it can work under several preconditions, and one of that is there must be some kind of internal democratic process within the political parties itself. Otherwise, we'll just we'll make political parties stronger and stronger for oligarchy, because we know that political parties belong to several political elites, and political parties is just very personalized toward, for example, the leaders of the political parties, and every political party decisions are just made by just a very small minority of elites. Thank you.
Yeah.
We just, excuse me to interrupt. Before answering Anthony's question, perhaps we may invite Grinda and Anita to address their question as well.
That's what I'm going to say actually, because Anita Wahid asked something that relates to Mas Andomindi about identity politics, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, can I ask the question?
Yeah.
Yes, please, Anita.
Okay, thank you. Mas Wija, my question is based on the background that I've been observing how disinformation or hoax has been heavily used in the 2014 and 2019 presidential election. And at that time, we've seen that in 2014 presidential election, basically hoax was being used to attack one candidate, and it effectively impacted the the candidate's electoral rate. Electability rate, sorry. But in 2019, we've seen different dynamics, because in 2019, there was basically no changes in the electoral rate at all for both candidates, basically because both camps were using hoaxes as well. So that raised the question of, if it's not effective, why use hoax at all to attack one another? And at that time, I came to the conclusion that the hoax wasn't meant to actually impact the electability rate, but it was meant to maintain the hatred between two polarized groups, which then, in the end, if we see the map of people who are actually believing the narration of Taliban of radicalism in KPK, and those who are supporting omnibus law, and those who are supporting the government on how they handle the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen actually it's very much aligned with the polarization groupings. So we've seen how dynamics of within these two groups are actually very much influenced by those who are seen to be the key opinion leaders of both of each of the polarized groups. So do you think that cyber troops would be this efficient and this effective if there wasn't no polarization at all in place in the first place? And if indeed polarization is one of the reasons of why cyber troops were very successful, can we say that that polarization was actually deliberately fabricated, deliberately created to for other political agendas, such as the KPK and the omnibus law and others? And is there any way that we can actually examine and point out the answer to that? So thank you, Mas Wija.
Okay. Yeah. Rui.
Yes. And Grinda, perhaps. Would you mind to share your question?
Thank you for the opportunity. This group is truly. I would like my first question. Actually, some of the speakers have answered about it, but I want to know the connection between the politician or last time we heard about Kakak Pembina or the other about and the connection between the buzzers. Can you reveal when you interview some of buzzer the result of your research about it? The second thing is about money politics. Can we say that the candidates have to spend more money, not only for the lectures such as the prayers, the religious actor, the alt figures, but they also have to spend a lot of money to pay the buzzer and influencers. And the last is the possibility of digital party. I think the political party is cannot democratize themselves, because what digital party did not happen here. According to the books wrote by Paulo Gerbaudo about digital politics, that explain the Podemos and Five Star Movimento and Pirate Party in Europe. Can you explain the opportunity of digital party in Indonesia? Or we can say that political party that did not care about the democratization, they just manipulate the public opinion. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Wija and Ward.
Yeah, big questions. You go first, Vija, or I go ahead.
Okay, I will perhaps answer first. I think what will help me to answer the questions. But first of all, I would like to say thanks, to the questions, because it's a very good questions. And I learned as well from the questions, because you're not just questioning, but also commenting, right? The questions from Mas Anthony Lee, he is the head of political desk of Kompas Daily newspaper. So I was, I don't know how to say it, but I was not surprised. I had an empathy. Why I have an empathy why he asked that kind of question. Like, let's say if the mainstream media have a similar position and refuse the Caprica law back to the 2019 revision, whether the movement will be successful. I mean, I would like to say to Mas Anandil that you have to be more what is it? More semangat, more have more confidence, in the power of the media, because I have the confidence on you, right? I mean, I always speak in many seminars that, the mainstream media, like Kompas and Tempo, they are the flagship of Indonesian journalism. So you have to, of course, you get a lot of hopes because people expect from you. I think it's because they have it means they have trust as well. So I think what happened? I don't know, because we cannot turn back the time. We don't have time machine. However, I have a belief that if the mainstream media and the citizen in general, they are more solid, and they are they are united, then obviously the power will be stronger, and that's obvious. So I was wondering, would the impact of the online manipulation effort from the cyber mercenaries be extremely different if the mainstream media were to have similar position? So my answer is yes. If all of the media, pressure the government, and we are in the same voice in it, but that's impossible, because as we know, even our mainstream media, some of them are owned by the oligarchy, right? By the owner of the political party. So it's impossible for the mainstream media. But if the mainstream media, many of them, and also the civil society is in one voice, perhaps, obviously I can say we have a stronger power, to challenge the agenda of the oligarchy, to revise the Caprica law. And the second question is, do you think mainstream media in the time of digital turbulence still strong enough to prevent and to oppose the manipulation efforts happen in social media? I will say that perhaps it's, to be honest, yeah, it's not quite strong. Whether the media is strong or not, I think it's not depend. It doesn't depend on the media itself, but also depend on the citizens. You know, if the citizen, we don't read Kompas.id or Tempo.co, instead we read Seaword. I think some of friends here, right here, I subscribe to Seaword just for joke, I think, right? But if we, you know, we subscribe to that kind of channel, or you know, a lot of channel, yeah, that just come out, pop out in our Facebook or in Google, yeah. Then the story is different. So I think it has something to do with the future of the quality journalism. The quality of journalism doesn't depend on the journalists themselves, but also depend on the citizens or on the readers, whether they care or not with the quality journalism. So I think this is the responsibility of the civil society, yeah, to have a good quality journalism. And it has something to do, yeah, with yeah. The last question is about, do you analyze the pattern? What is different? Yeah, I think Mas Antoni Lee brings the point from Melila Lim. Yes, I also remember her study, and she said that if it goes according to the mainstream narrative, then it will be more likely to be successful. And in that 2019, it was successful because of, you know, there is the narrative of KPK Serang Taliban. It touched the sentiment of the public, yeah. And it has something to do with the question from Mbak Anita Wahid, yeah, because our society is polarized, and also this Taliban issue is something, really something. So it got the attention, and it got amplified by the mainstream media too. And there's a role of the Vice President, for instance, as revealed by Mbak Nina. So I think, as far as I remember, the KPK issue, the attempt to weaken the KPK before never involved this identity narrative. Yeah, they never accused KPK as Sarang Taliban. It is only this 2019 that this narrative is used. This kind of narrative will not work to a person like me, but for Indonesian public in general, it still works. That's the setting. So it relates to the question from Mbak Anita, yeah. Was the polarization deliberately created? The answer is yes and no, yeah. No, because I think if we learn from Indonesian history, in the work of Clifford Geertz, for instance, yeah, we have 3 cleavage, yeah, Abangan, Santri, and Nasionalis, yeah, Nasionalis, Santri, Abangan. So religious groups, the less, how do we say it in Abangan in English, or you know, Japanese believers, yeah, Japanese way group and nationalist group. It's there in our society. However, whether the elites will use it for a conflict or for their political interest, that's the question, right? We are different, right, in terms of religion, in terms of ethnicity, yes, but it can be good if the elites use it for a good purpose, right? However, if they exploit it for dispute, for the polarization, then this is what happens. So I think, you know, to some extent, the political identity issue, the Taliban issue, contribute to some degree, yeah, to the success of the KPK revision, yeah, or the public opinion manipulation to support the KPK revision. And then, is there any way to examine and answer the question? Yeah, that will be my attempt, yeah, to answer the question. I think it's a good question, and perhaps further research is needed to answer it. And lastly, yeah, to the question from Grienda, yeah, about I already forget. It's about is there any nexus between politician and officer? Oh, yeah, the first question is Kakak Bemina. Kakak Bemina, did we find something about Kakak Bemina? Yes, we did. What I can say is that Kakak Bemina doesn't refer to single person. There are some Kakak Bemina actually. Just like in our politics, in our oligarchy, there's also fragmentation in the oligarchy. Sometimes, as you can see today, some part of the elites they fought each other, yeah, for 2024, right? And it looks the same as for the Kakak Bemina. There are some Kakak Bemina and some you can say some groups in the elites, yeah, and some cyber troops with some Kakak Bemina as well in the elites. And what's the name? I think I cannot. I'm sorry, I cannot say it, yeah. But we have some informants who indicate who he is or who she is, yeah, or who they are. Is there a nexus between politician or officer with buzzer, the support government? Yes, there's nexus. So we had some interviews with the influencers that become important person, yeah, or they got some position because of their activities. And some influencers admitted that they got some financial support too. So there's a relationship indeed, yeah. I think I will leave the screen to what to add to my attempt to answer some of the questions.
Well, you already said a lot, and I just want to start my answers by asking everybody for all these nice questions and also saying that I haven't answered all of them, and so apologies for that. Sorry that there are so many good ones, but let me try at least in my last one. Grienda and I think it was Tommy asked about political parties and expressed, I think, very common feeling in Indonesia that political parties right now are also an instrument of oligarchy, and if they were to select candidates on their own, this might also not be transparent, which is a good point. I mean, indeed, that was one of the reasons why the Supreme Court in 2009 made this open list system. But I think this is a process where Indonesia has to go through, that you will have low quality political parties supported by oligarchy, but then you have elections to weed them out, to punish them for these kind of things. And that a solution for the selection element would be open and competitive elections, as somebody said, so that a party would be punished for selecting bad candidates. That's one argument. And the other argument is, I think the current system is also having the oligarchic support, but not visible, less visible, that behind a candidate for Bupati or governor are all these financial powers, but you don't know it. And it's not different from when you have strong parties. So I see the hesitance about political parties, but I think this is a process that Indonesia will need to go through to have bad political parties and then gradually have good ones, not have no political parties, I think, or very weak ones. Okay, but I realize this is a topic for a longer discussion and a complex one. So thank you all for all these questions and this very nice discussion. I really liked it, and I think you're having a very nice summer school. I have to leave soon, so I cannot stay long. But I just wish you all a good time, and that it was very nice to meet you here like this.
Yes, thank you for making your time work to join us. And you wake up very early in the Netherlands, right? Yeah, but I would like to thanks to everyone too for the questions. I agree with what in one thing, yeah, that perhaps we have to start to make it as a public debate, yeah, whether something is decent or not. To manipulate public opinion is decent or not, we have to address it publicly. And but I disagree with by regulating it with Undang-Undang ITE, right? Because as expressed by Mas Erlambang yesterday or the day before yesterday, that if we revise the Undang-Undang ITE, the Information and Electronic Law, if we want to put our agenda in there, then the elites will refuse. If there's revision, then the revision will be done to even control further the citizens, our freedom. That's the problem. So so I think what we can do now is if there is so not using the law, but by addressing this topic to be a public debate, and we start to proposing that what is decent or not decent to be done by politicians online. Yeah, that's that would be my point, yeah, to my answer to Mas Taufan's questions. And anyway, I agree with what that it's all a wonderful comments and question, and I also learned a lot, yeah, from that.
Okay, thank you, Wija and Ward, for the conclusion as well. Actually, we are running out of time because we really had a very dynamic discussion. Thank you again, Ward, for joining us. And then Wija, perhaps there are still several questions that we haven't answered. Perhaps you're going to follow up the discussions by email or something?
Yeah, I will follow up the discussion by coming into this room tomorrow and the day after tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Perhaps that's more precise to what, yeah.
Okay.
Here, I don't go anywhere. It's what we will do.
Okay. So and tomorrow we will start at what time, Wija?
Tomorrow we will start at the topic for tomorrow will be. Forget it. I think it's in the schedule, yeah. Pak Gulam, perhaps you can remind
Yes.
us.
Okay, tomorrow we will start at 3. We have several speakers that will discuss about digital citizenship and social movement in Indonesia, and also issues in implementation of electronic voting, as well as citizenship and democracy in Indonesia.
And it will start at what time again? Sorry.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock Indonesian time.
Yes, Indonesian time.
Tomorrow I will talk about the cyber terror towards academics. Yeah, so it will still have something to do with what we discussed today. So please don't miss it.
Okay. Thank you again for all of you for attending our course today. So hope to see you all again tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you for organizing.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you all.
Take
Good
care.
time.
Bye.
Thank you, Pak
Bye.
Wad.
See you tomorrow.